Hey, everyone, Anthony Fantano here, internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well. Got the old Gmail account open because I am answering a letter from a fan over here, sent in by one Mr. Jimmy. Sorry if the text in the sort of email box here is a little small and you can't quite read it. Again, apologies for that, but it's weirdly formatted, and this is how the email was sent to me. But I can show you this amazing Photoshop of me as Professor Honeydew, or just, Professor Honeydew's head over my head. I do love the Muppets, so yes, it says, P.S. You remind me of Professor Honeydew, but you wear flannel instead of a lab coat. That's pretty much the only difference between me and Professor Honeydew. That is true. All right, so Jimmy's question over here has to do with meaning in music, basically coming out and asking, does music have to have a meaning? And then he kind of expands upon that, asking, does music inherently need a meaning? Do you need a meaning to enjoy the music? Does it really sort of come down to the interpretation? Do you need to have some kind of interpretation? Does the interpretation need to make sense in order to sort of enjoy music? And he observes that typically I try to get to the heart of a song very quickly, and that sometimes that can impact my opinion of the track, which is definitely true. However, in the case of more abstract albums and bands, or records that I maybe enjoy for their compositional value, or just kind of the sound or the timbre of the instrumentation more than I do the lyrics. For example, the new Oxbow record that I just reviewed. I didn't really talk too much about the lyrics on that record, and more about just kind of, again, the sound of the vocal performances, the great mix, the awesome arranged instrumentation that kind of enhanced the guitars and the drums and the vocals throughout the record. So there are definitely records that in the past I enjoy more for their sound. I don't really talk too much about the lyrics. However, as you are probably already aware of, some other recent reviews like the new Billy Woods album, or like the new Mountain Goats album, I really kind of obsess over the lyrics a little bit with those artists because I tend to really love their lyrics, and their songs do usually tend to focus on a particular idea, message, topic, theme, concept. So I kind of go into their music expecting that a little bit, and wanting that, wanting them to continue to sort of live up to that standard that they have already set for themselves as an artist that sort of is a great storyteller, or, weaves a good tale or something. But to sort of get to your question, does music need to have a meaning? Does it have to have a meaning? I would say short answer, no. Absolutely no. In order for music to be good, it doesn't necessarily have to have a meaning. There are tons of examples of fantastic instrumental music from a range of different genres that doesn't really have any sort of meaning outside of just, this is just the sound, this is just the aesthetic. Of course, there are plenty of classical pieces that are set to or try to tell a story, as is most likely the case with other, pieces of instrumental music in other genres as well, but the whole classical thing is what came to mind first. But still, there's lots of abstract instrumental music out there that is created purely for its sound, doesn't necessarily have to have, sort of a meaning. I guess its meaning is really sort of dependent upon the listener, whatever you interpret the music to mean emotionally to you. And then again, there are also songs with lyrics and with vocals that don't necessarily have a meaning either. The lyrical component of the track is totally abstract and meant to be experimental and difficult or impossible to sort of interpret in any kind of logical way. So the band or the artist is essentially trying to, sort of throw a bit of a curveball at you, as in the past, like artists like John Lennon have with songs as like I'm the Walrus, that sort of thing. But I guess the last thing that I want to say here is that I feel like most music does have meaning, especially in the pop and popular music realm. I feel like there's pop music, and then there's sort of the wider scale of music outside of popular music, or rather just pop music, like rap and rock and electronic music and so on and so forth, which, while they're not directly pop music, they're still greatly influenced by pop music and pop music's usual sort of pressures to make a song that means something or is about something. I'm not one of these, nor do I implore any of you to be, one of these whiny Paul Joseph Watson types who's like, "Ooh, Nicki Minaj, her music doesn't mean anything. It's so nihilistic and postmodern and actually Nicki Minaj's music does have meaning, and it is about something. It's very shallow, but it's about something. I don't think pop music's problem, or a lot of music's problem, isn't that it's not about something. It's that its meaning, or what it is about, is very shallow, and it tends to be about the same handful of things that most popular music is about. One of the main sort of popularly experienced emotions, whether that be sadness or anger or love, about another person who you are in love with, a significant other or something like that, maybe betrayal, maybe being treated wrong, mistreated, having your heart broken, that sort of thing, sex. I mean, these are things that most popular music is about, to the point where when we hear it now, it's just kind of like, what's the song about? This doesn't mean anything. Well, this song doesn't even have meaning. And I think people kind of mix up their terms a little bit here. People tend to use the word meaning as kind of like a swap out for deep or meaningful. Something can be something can be deep and not have a meaning. It can be abstract, it can be weird, it can be experimental, it can be, really emotionally sort of stirring, but not necessarily have a direct, obvious meaning to it. Something can have a meaning, but not really be all that meaningful because its meaning is shallow. Like, to have meaning does not mean it's deep, does not mean it's, emotionally significant. It just means simply that it means something. I feel like we're getting really meta here, talking about how terms are used, and by the time this video is over, the word meaning will most likely have no meaning to you. But I digress. But again, I think most music out there does have meaning. It's just sort of the general shallow, sort of very surface level requirements of pop music that it kind of sits up to. I think, what is necessary going forward is that music that is a bit more meaningful. Or actually going forward, I would love to hear more music, whether it be in the mainstream or the underground, that actually kind of tries to forego the whole idea of having to have a meaning. Because I don't think there's a lot of music outside of sort of the avant-garde that actively tries to completely avoid the idea of having any meaning, being truly nihilistic, or, again, just trying to leave it up to the listener to truly decide without throwing them too many lyrical bones, too many contextual bones, so that, you just kind of hit them over the head with what the idea, the concept, the meaning of the song truly is. So, I think you could easily enjoy music that doesn't have a meaning. I think there's a lot of music out there that does in fact have a meaning, but yet it's not very deep, so people kind of get confused. And I think music, could experiment a little bit more with avoiding the idea of having a meaning, for sure. Hopefully this video meant something to you guys, stirred the pot and put some thoughts out there. You're the best. I will catch you in the next one. Forever. And here's another video next to my head that I think you should check out. Subscribe to the channel too. Forever.